Stop scrolling. If you've ever struggled with fades and that skin line won't come out clean no matter what you do, or you've watched a million tutorials and you still can't get it right, this video is for you. I'm about to break it all down. Simple, easy to follow checkpoint system that's gonna have you crushing your fades in no time. No more guessing, no more frustration, just clean professional results. Now listen, YouTube doesn't want me to push these tutorials. They want me to make reviews. And yeah, I like making reviews, but this, helping you get better, this is what I really care about. So do me a favor, smash the like button so more people can see this, pay close attention, and I'm gonna give you a clear understanding of how to implement my 6-phase approach so that you can be hitting every checkpoint correctly before you move on and get ahead of mistakes before you make them. Now, before we jump in, you're gonna need one of the most powerful tools in history, something that has helped men shape the world, a pen or a pencil, or in my case, a Sharpie. Yep, we're taking notes. Throughout this haircut, I'll be dropping key checkpoints, and trust me, you're gonna wanna remember them. But first, let's cover a little bit of theory. And don't worry, I'll keep it quick. However, if you want a game-changing breakdown of fade theory that will entirely take you from where you are to a pro, you can check out this masterclass video, watch the first 10 minutes, and I guarantee you it's gonna change the way you think about it. I actually rewatched that and was inspired by myself to make this video. So the first thing I wanna do is just share with you guys a little clip from that video. Real quick, y'all, there's something about a rainy day that I just love. But one thing I didn't love is when I was a walk-in barber, a lot of the clientele wouldn't show up on a rainy day because they didn't feel like obligated to leave the house. Well, thanks to the sponsor of today's video, Booked In, all my clients are coming in. I've been here since 5:30 in the morning, and I've been with this company for 3 years. They've been so good. Great customer service, just good people all around. You guys can head over to bookedin.com/Eddie, and you guys can pick up an offer for 50% off your first 3 months. So check out that, it's in the description below. And yeah, let's get back to the video. We're gonna go through clipper manipulation. We're gonna go through the process. We're gonna go through literally every single step from the scissor work to the common fails and flaws, and make sure that your roadmap is identical to my roadmap so that we can make sure that you guys are able to follow along and do what it is I do. I promise you, when you go back into the shop the very next day, or you go back into school, or you attack your next haircut, some of this stuff is gonna change the way that you work going forward. And for a short period of time, I'm gonna leave this video public, but this is actually a membership video. And if you guys wanna sign up to my membership where I could do more advanced tutorial content like this, do me a favor and check that out. Let's get started with a fade diagram. We have some clippers, we have some guards, and if you guys are beginners, the rogue combo is a really difficult thing to beat. I'm gonna explain why in a minute, but let's start out with drawing a nice big circle on your piece of paper. Doesn't have to be perfect. I can't lean forward or I'm gonna get the camera. I'll get in the way of the camera, but we're gonna put a number 2 on top. From number 2 and higher, we're gonna use a lot of clipper over comb and shear over comb, which we're gonna get into in this video. And then on the very bottom of our circle, skin. Now, some of you may have some idea of what I'm about to do, but if you haven't seen me do a fade diagram, I really do suggest that you stick around. So if I had a client walk in and they told me to take a number 2 all the way around the head, anybody sitting out there right now, whether you went to school or not, you guys would be able to shave somebody's head with a number 2. I have confidence in you. The problem starts when we want to fade into a number 2, something lower going into a number 2. What guard could I take into this number 2 if I stopped before this line that would not create a line? Theoretically speaking, the answer would be the 1.5, but in the open position. So if I put this 1.5 on and I flick this to the open position, I now am going to cut the longest length that this clipper can with this guard attached. If I come here and I put 1.5 open, that means as long as I stop when I get about to the number 2, I'm not gonna create a line. Now, the very next step down, what could I shave the bottom of the head with again? The answer would be a 1.5 closed, as long as I stopped before I hit this line. What could I do going into the next one? Number 1 in the open position. So we'll put 1 open, 1 closed. The next thing that I would do would be a 0 open. Now this guard could be referred to as a few different things. It could be considered the half, it could be considered the 0, people could call it the 1/16 if you're doing fractions, or it's the 1.5 millimeter. We're gonna call it a 0 just to make it easy. And we're gonna say 0 open, 0 closed. This is when it gets a little complicated, and we're gonna zoom into this next couple parts here. But the next step would obviously be just open, closed, and then I have my trimmer line. That's why I wanted to make this circle big. And then below that, I would have skin. These are all the steps that are going to be needed to accomplish most, if any, type of fading. So if I did this for everybody, it would obviously take way too long. So we all develop systems within this. The reason why I wanted you guys to fill this out and to do this is because when I work with a class and we get towards the end of a haircut, they usually nail a lot of it just right, but they're like, hey, Ed, I got a little line here. What do you think is going to get it out? I can't be there looking over your shoulder all the time telling you what's going to fix your work. You have to be able to self-diagnose your work. So what this is for is at the end of your haircut, you could say, well, I think it's a 1. I could grab the step above. I could grab the step below, and you could troubleshoot on your own. That's what this diagram is useful for. Let's zoom in on the most difficult part of the haircut. Let's break this down now. We have our harshest line yet, and that is the one that we put in with the trimmer. We'll call that this line right here, just to make things easy. And we go to an open taper here. So we're gonna set in that first guideline. All the way to here, that's open taper. Now, this in the open position is not gonna remove this line. So one of the reasons why your clipper is not gonna remove your trimmer line is because the trimmer will literally put the line in all the way down to a 0.17 millimeter. That's a really close cut. So that makes a lot less work for the electric shaver. And that's why you'll see a lot of barbers putting in their line with the trimmer. Now that sword cuts both ways, because as easy as that makes it for this, that's also going to make it a little more difficult to remove. There are certain clients where you're not going to mind to do that with, but as a general rule of thumb, I typically don't do this. And I'm going to show you why in this particular haircut. I got to get all these steps done in such a short amount of space that I'm not going to be able to do that. We're going to have to use some clipper manipulation, which we're going to get into in just a few minutes.
Phase 1, bulk removal. This is where we set our foundation, remove excess hair, and establish our initial guideline. We got to get it down to 5 zeros so that we can use the electric shaver and we can get that extra clean finish. Now, let me clear something up real quick. A lot of barbers charge right in with their trimmers to set that first line. The smart barbers do this with a trimmer that's set back just enough to leave the hair a tiny bit longer. But if this is the first time cutting this client and you're unsure about their hair type, it's a safer, smarter approach to start with your clipper, close the taper lever all the way, and then click it one time open. So we're gonna close it all the way and click it one back open. This gives you a super soft and easy guideline that blends out effortlessly. It makes your fade process smoother right from the start. So let's get to one of our first checkpoints and set in that first guideline. Follow up underneath with the trimmer and stop just before you went with that initial line. Now we're going to follow up with the electric shaver down below. I realize this is kind of like a 3-step approach. It's going to take you a little bit more time to get this right, but in the end, it's actually going to save you a lot of time when you go back to detail it and there's not a million things to chase around. Let's address the cause and effect of making mistakes here. I personally feel like your guideline needs to be precise and accurate on each side. So step back, use your mirror, and make adjustments as needed. Now, a lot of other things that could go wrong are you accidentally run your trimmer a little bit too high. Maybe you do a bad job with your electric shaver. Each time you need to be flicking up and off of the head and trying to soften this. And you're going to know that you've done a correct job when you get to your end of your haircut and it's all nice and smooth. Now, if you get to the end of the haircut and there's a lot of cleanup, there's a pretty good chance, if that's happening to you, that you're not doing this area very thoroughly. Now, here's the checkpoint. Use your mirror and make adjustments and make sure that they're the same width on each side. You can use your fingers. Maybe you can use 2 fingers. However you want to do it, just make sure that they're even, because that's going to be the foundation of the rest of your haircut. Let's move on to phase 2. That's clipper and shear over comb, and it is the ultimate blending hack. Now, real quick, these phases aren't locked in. You could tackle them in any order you want, but I break it down this way to make sure everything is super clear and easy to follow. Now, let's talk about clipper over comb. This is hands down one of the most powerful skills in barbering. Master it and you'll speed up your fades, you'll sharpen your blends, and you'll create effortless transitions from short to longer hair
And this is one of the biggest reasons you don't have to run all of those guards. I have an entire video on clipper over comb. You guys can check it out. I definitely think it's one of the best videos out there. I'll list it here so we don't have to spend a ton of time talking about it. But I am always going to use some amount of clipper over comb to clear some of the bulk and create a smooth and seamless connection to the longer lengths on top. In this technique, it just saves me time and it adds precision to my haircuts, and especially at the end, like if my silhouette's a little jacked up, spin them towards the mirror and make sure that's clean. Now, this is checkpoint number 2. Your bulk is removed, you've built a passable connection to the top, and you got your clipper over comb done, and now it's time to cut the top, and let's move into phase 3. Phase 3 is simply how to cut the top. Okay, let me take a second here and show you guys quickly how I cut the top. All we're going to do, guys, we're gonna omit the bangs, and we're gonna create that mohawk guideline right down the center. So we're gonna pick that got kind of crooked, but you guys get the idea. We're gonna make a mohawk guideline down the center. We're gonna stand off to the sides, and we're going to cut that mohawk guideline. I've practically created this technique. I've been doing this for so long, way before anybody else made tutorials about it. And this is such a good technique that literally tons and tons of people do this. Now, if we pick up that hair in the center and we make a little row right beside it, we're just gonna hold our fingers this way. We're gonna cut that little bit that sticks out all the way back. Now, I have a full video that really is clear on this. That explains every single thing, but essentially we're gonna move it back in rows, and our guideline is gonna get wider, and it's gonna come out. Now, in the case of Julian here, the haircut that you guys are seeing, I knew that it was important that I make his hair really square. I wanted him to have some weight in this area right here. So if you see me doing that, basically all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a guideline all the way out to each edge of the hair. And instead of curving around the scalp, I'm just gonna come off straight with my fingers. Super easy way to do it, but this is a basic technique that'll really give you a clear roadmap on how to do this. Now here's the checkpoint. We know where we're coming from. We have this big line around the side of our head. We have the top addressed, and we know where we're coming from, and we know where we're going to. And now it's time to bring it all together. So let's talk about the blend. Let's be real. Not every haircut you do as a beginner needs to be a skin fade. In fact, the smartest move is to start by mastering the basics, like seamlessly blending a number 2 around the back and sides into longer hair on the top. When I first started, this was my foundation. I focused on perfecting my blends before even attempting skin fades. And let me tell you, when I finally took to the fade and I started going all the way down to skin, I had a huge advantage. I already understood how to connect it to the top. I knew how my clippers and guards worked, and I had a really good foundation in clipper over comb. So making that transition smooth was actually pretty easy once you understand all the little nuances within your tools. And if you don't understand that stuff, I would definitely encourage you to check out some of the other videos I have on the channel, whether it's zero gapping, a good setup, stuff like that. We're just trying to give you guys an honestly good class here. So all that to say, don't fall for all this internet bull. If you're feeling uncomfortable, don't rush it. Just take some time, learn the other skills first, and when you're ready for skin fades, they'll be 10 times easier. But if you are ready to take it to the next level, you feel confident, you feel ready, let's dive in. I'm gonna give you a simple and powerful approach to achieving these perfect blends with clippers. Now, I'm gonna break down my tried and tested process step by step so you can consistently create seamless fades. After that, we're gonna go over some of the most common mistakes I've seen students make, so you know exactly what to avoid. Let's get to it. There's gonna be a series of checkpoints here. The 3 commandments of fading. Before we do anything, let's address these commandments, and we shall not break them. 1, keep the clipper horizontal when setting in guidelines. 2, keep the clipper at an angle when we're blending. And 3, use a C motion when we're setting in guidelines. Step 1, setting in the first guideline. Always start your first guideline actually behind the client's ear. If a mistake happens, at least it won't be in the front of his head, and since the hairline is often thin in that area, this is just good practice. Now, with the clipper in the open position, clicking this lever all the way down, we're gonna set a guideline the width of a finger. And we're gonna make sure it's balanced on each side. Use your mirror to check. This is like an advanced move 101. We wanna make sure that our initial guideline is good so that this guideline is easy to make. Because this hair is so thick, I really don't wanna set any harsh guidelines, so I'm gonna start by putting my guideline in with my teeth out like this, right? And I'm gonna start lowering the ass end of the clipper until it's flat. And that's how I'm gonna start this guideline. Always start behind the ear. Teeth are out, coming up a little bit, lowering the butt end down until I get it flat at the bottom. Teeth are up and out, lowering the butt end down until I get it. That's what we're going to do, and the reason we're going to do that is because I really want to soften any guidelines that I put in this haircut, because I want to make sure it's nice and easy to get it out. What's nice about curving the guideline like that too, it's going to allow the fade to disperse this way and this way. And that's going to look really good when we're done.
Step 2, we're going to create our second guideline. We're going to skip the half guard. We're going to move straight to the number 1 guard. We're going to close this lever completely, and then we're going to open it back 2 clicks. 1, 2. That's about halfway open. And using a C motion, we're going to establish our next guideline. Now, this should be a soft guideline, about a finger's width. And in some areas, it may even blend seamlessly into the top. So starting with the guard halfway open, I'm gradually going to open and close it as needed. I'm tipping the clipper at angles, and I'm actually doing some of my first blending in this section.
Okay, so I like to start with the lever 2 clicks. And I really don't want to get too much higher than this with my haircut. I don't want to crest the top of the head. I know of a lot of barbers that do really sick blends, really nice blends with the clipper. They get so obsessed with making the blend perfect that a lot of times they wind up taking it a little over the parietal ridge, and they wind up losing the weight that they needed it to keep. So again, always start with it 2 clicks open and then move it as needed. If you crest the top of that with like a number 1, it's going to be too short and you just won't get it back. We know that we're going to have to get in there with the half guard. That's where we left off with that. Despite the fact that we tried to really soft set that guideline, it's still there a little bit. So I know I'm going to have to use my half guard. So because of that, I'm actually going to start working on the bottom line, and then I'll follow up with my half and I'll clean it up.
Step 3, refining the blend. I'm going to repeat the same steps that I did with the 1.5 guard. Now this is a checkpoint. By now your original guideline should be still visible, and most of the blend is nearly complete. And from this point on, everything is going to be done at angles. We're going to remove the bottom line now. First thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to close the clipper completely, and I'm only going to be using 1 to potentially 3 teeth. I'm going to flick into that section carefully, and gradually I'm going to click this lever until I get it all the way back into the open position and my section is clean.
I'm going to open it 2 clicks, double tap the center of the screen. If you guys are appreciating this, 1.8 inches wide is how wide a clipper blade is. Most clipper blades are about the same. If you put it on there. Now, I know some of you guys have been wondering, like, hey, does this clipper get hot? You guys see how long we've had this on for this entire time, right? Let's check it real quick. I got my gun right here. 85 degrees, already cooling down pretty quick. You can approach this much more carefully. Like whenever we're blending, tip it on an angle. Whenever we're blending, when we're setting guidelines in, try to keep it horizontal. Try to keep your guidelines neat, and I think you're gonna find the whole thing comes together a little bit easier when you do it like that. I got my 1.5 out. I might as well run it on this side just a touch. And I really like the weight that we're starting to build up here. Remember, that was the whole point of the entire haircut. So again, always starting some of my first steps that I'm not sure how it's going to be right behind the ear. And I'm going to do that with the clipper fully closed. And in this case, I'm going to push down on his skin, and I'm going to feed it into the clipper so I could get it to cut just a little bit closer. And we're only using a corner, a couple teeth. Really don't want to use too many teeth in this step. I don't want to push this any higher than it needs to be. And we're going to see this line come out like magic. Listen to the echo crunch blade. You'll hear it chip, 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 and then we're going to open it up when it stops. I'll tell you guys what, for detailing, when you're detailing your blend, it don't get no better than this Echo Crunch blade. It's almost like this has made it so easy. You guys know that I love the Saber 2. I told you guys the Saber 2 was like my favorite clipper. But man, since I've been working with this one here, I honestly, I think my cuts are coming out faster. I think they've been coming out better. I've been enjoying, kind of the way this noise and the way it all like just comes together. If you tried everything and you get all the way to fully closed and it didn't come out, just jump back to your trimmer and hit them little spots up a little bit that didn't come out all the way. This is the Saber trimmer. Now here's the checkpoint. At this stage, the bottom line is gone, and that connection to the top is almost complete. So now all we're gonna have to do is some small refinements in step 4. To fine tune this, we're gonna put the half guard on and we're gonna clean up any inconsistencies. Now there's 2 little tips I'm gonna give you here. And one of them is gonna be, make sure that you have one of your clippers with a taper blade. It's gonna make it super easy for this cleanup section. And another pro tip would be, don't overwork in any section. If something isn't blending out perfectly, if it's giving you trouble, if you spend a bunch of time on it, just move on. We're going to return to it in phase 6, but trust me, sometimes we could get like kind of snowblind and stuck in a section and it's just not worth it. You're probably going to wind up getting frustrated, rush it, and make a mistake. We will grab our half guard and we'll kind of try to finesse this. Always starting, I just did it without telling you guys, but always starting 2 clicks, 1, 2. And we're just using the corner of the blade. It looks like I'm holding it flat. Those of you who have not watched my channel much might not know this, but those of you who do, how wide is a clipper blade? Let's see if you guys remember. I've been talking about this week a lot. Those of you guys who've been tuning in might know. How wide is my clipper blade? 1 point what inches? And you already know this cut is starting to come together nice. And this is going to be the hard side, guys. Watch the other side. I got a feeling this is gonna be the tougher side, but the other side I got a feeling is I'm just gonna breeze through it. It'll be super quick. All right, we got a little bit of cleanup, but I'm not gonna drive myself crazy. I'm gonna move on from this section. 1.5 is actually 1.8 inches. So it's almost 2 full inches wide. So when you make a mistake, a 1.8 inch mistake, that's no good. That's very not good. So we want to make sure, if we're going to make a mistake, we want to make sure that it's just a corner, a little mistake, something we can fix easy. Phase 5, the edge up. And before we even get that far, let me just set some ground rules. All right. Number 1, no client's hair is ever perfect. Every hairline is different, and our goal is to enhance, not create perfection. Number 2, outline only the outer edge and minimize cutting into the hairline. If you push it back too much, when the hair grows back in a few days, it will look bad, and so will your work. Number 3, we're going to learn how to anchor and pivot properly. Mastering this technique is going to give you some precision and control while keeping the shape natural. And number 4, maintain 3 points of contact with the client. And this is going to really help ensure accuracy, and it will allow you to anticipate movement if the client starts to shift. Okay, I don't actually have a trimmer on me here at this moment, but all I'm going to say is, let's say that I'm edging up this client. I want to have a couple different points of contact. So 1, I keep my left hand on the top of the head. 2, I'm going to use one of my fingers or something like this before I touch the scalp. And 3, I'm going to use maybe my knuckles, something like that, and then I'm going to inch it in. And as I touch, I got 3 points of contact. 1 is my fingers on the back of my hand, 2 is my actual machine, and 3 is my head. Now, if this guy starts to sneeze or something like that, I can anticipate that. So a couple of different ways that I'll do that. 1 is just, straightforward, simple, like you see a lot of people doing. But 2, one that I like actually an awful lot is using a pencil grip. And this allows me to actually make a nice contact right to around their nose area. I can use my pinky too. I can really get a lot of control. However you decide to do it, just make sure that you're anchored properly. Now, a pivot is a little different, and that would be done sort of in the C-cup area, but essentially I'm going to use one of my fingers here, and I'm going to kind of pivot around it. So I'll take one of my fingers, don't make a difference which one, I'll pivot around that, and that's usually going to be around the ear. When we get to this side of the ear, we're going to have to move the trimmer the other way. So we're going to use a finger behind the back of the ear just like this, and I'm going to cut here. Now, obviously, all hair is different. It might grow in different directions, and that might mean that you have to manipulate your trimmer in a bunch of different ways. But in general, there's so much more to learn about this technique, but this is just the basics. You might want to trim that down a little bit before you shave it. You might do a little bit of a front fade in the back, depending on what type of
hair you're dealing with, but these are just some easy techniques for you guys to take with you and try. And I would definitely encourage you guys getting a mannequin, and when we're done practicing some of the other techniques on it, you guys can go ahead and you can practice like just doing designs on it and practice with your trimmers. So now we're going to follow up with our straight razor finish. We're going to prepare the area with a small amount of shave gel to protect the skin and to provide some glide. Now, keeping the skin tight, we want to ensure a clean and precise movement. Start by shaving with the grain, and then we're going to go against the grain to get like the sharpest finish possible. Now we're going to move on to phase 6. And phase 6 is final details and enhancements. This is the phase where you're going to bring everything together, refining your blend and making the cut look as flawless as possible. Polishing the blend, we're going to use all of these techniques we've learned so far. Clipper over comb, shear over comb, texturizing shears, return to your clippers, trimmers, or even your shaver if necessary. Now, if you find yourself needing to go all the way back to your shaver, you're probably going to want to re-examine your phase 1. Get a little better at making that transition so that you don't have to do that. Your goal should be to fine-tune every detail and make the transition between all these sections as seamless as possible. Now, when it comes to adding color enhancements, we're going to take our work to the next level with color enhancements. I love to clean up the vertical bars and paint this light area and any light areas in the hairline. It's a small touch. It makes the cut stand out. It makes the photos look great, and the clients love it. A pro tip would be to keep some Q-tips on standby for any cleanup of excess color, and you can help maintain a more natural look. Don't be afraid to experiment. Enhancements can elevate your work and add that extra level of sharpness. So, what's next for the YouTube Barber Academy? If you want a more detailed tutorial on color enhancements, let me know in the comments. It's been a while since I've done one. And one of the next lessons I want to cover is how to fade, shape, and maintain a longer beard. I don't know if I could only find like a client that would work for that. All right, obviously these videos are a lot of work to make. So if you guys want to support the channel, at the very minimum, if you could just hit that thumbs up, because YouTube is not going to like the fact that I've given you some real information that you could actually really use to benefit yourself in this craft. And all they want me to do is make reviews. And it's a little disappointing because I love doing this. My heart is in teaching. You guys can see that I have a lot of passion for this. So if you could smash that thumbs up, drop a comment, that would be great. If you need any tools, you guys can head over to Stylecraft, use the code Eddie, save 15%. And if you need anything outside of Stylecraft, like you see me using that detachable clipper in the beginning, that's a Heinecker, a detachable clipper, really a cool cheap unit, and I got that from Fort Worth Barber Supply. You guys can use my code Eddie10, Fort Worth Barber Supply. And of course, as always, if you guys don't have a booking appointment scheduling app and you need a good one, I've been with mine for over 3 years, and today they just committed something major. We're about to have some major announcements coming, and I'm super excited to bring these to you, but we will be paying off a couple of people's barber tuition, and a lot of it has to do with Stylecraft and Booked In. Other than that, man, I really hope you guys are having a great day. 900 videos to help you learn. Subscribe if you're not already. Catch you in the next video. Peace. I'm out.